So our today's agenda would be not that much. I haven't basically picked up lots of things to cover. So I today will be talking about just some basic things up over here in our day two's agenda, where we will be talking about the domains of SOC, right? What are different domains? That means in which particular domain the SOC is basically working, right? Let's say for incident response. So that is one of the domain which is part of SOC, right? So something like that we'll be discussing multiple different domains of SOC. Then we will be talking about market trends and demands in SOC, right? Like what is the market trend, how SOC business is booming according to the region, according to the services, according to the post, what kind of job description you guys will be having, right? So that is something which we'll be discussing in market trends. The third one will be a day in SOC. So over here, I will be talking about the analyst life, right? What analysts actually do in its day-to-day life. Yesterday we discussed a role, right? That L1 does this, L2 do this. So we'll be talking about a day in SOC, how it goes around, right? And if needed, I'll show you some sort of things also apart from it, that this is how basically we do respond to activities and all those part, right? Then we'll be talking about guys SOC services. So SOC services will be part where we will be talking about multiple different services which are being offered by SOC apart from the domains in which we are working, right? So we'll be talking about that up over there, right? And the last, as mentioned, we will be having a dedicated Q&A session where I will be taking up all the questions which you guys do have, be it from anywhere, and we'll be discussing upon those particular questions. So that's what guys sums up our today's agenda. Our today's agenda, domains of SOC. So if I do talk about guys domains of SOC, SOC is basically, you can say, a one-stop shop of cyber security, right? Like a one-stop shop where you can get everything out of cyber security and information security. That's what we do call as SOC. That is incident response. So guys, I haven't included all of them since we do have only these 2 hours. So I haven't included all of these particular topics as per the slides, but yes, we will be discussing upon all of them. So in detail, we are going to discuss incident response, threat intelligence, digital forensics, threat hunting. Apart from it, rest of these, that is SIM monitoring analysis, vulnerability management, malware analysis, and compliance and auditing is something which we are going to talk about verbally over here. So let's do have a talk about all of these things one by one. So since we are going to discuss IR, threat intel, digital forensics, and threat hunting via slides, let's start with the SIM first, right? So this is something where we are starting SIM monitoring and analysis, right? So domains of SOC, it basically tells us SOC, it's basically a department, right? Yesterday we discussed that it's a unit, it's a department, and right now I mentioned that it's a one-stop shop for entire of your organization's cybersecurity needs, right? So no matter any type of your cybersecurity need is there for your organization, you can rely upon SOC and you can basically get that thing done in SOC, right? So you might be saying that what if I want to basically alert the logs from a device? Yes, you can do under the SOC. What if you want to do for a work for a compliance and auditing? Of course, yes, you can do it under the SOC. So there are lots of domains overall in SOC. So the first one which we are going to discuss right now is SIM monitoring and analysis, right? So when we did talked about heart of SOC as a SIM, I also mentioned one point that we will be having only one thing with us that will be always with us, that is basically SIM. No matter every SOC is same or not, but there will be one thing there which will be always same, that will be every SOC will be having a capabilities of SIM if I do talk about in terms of monitoring and analysis. So using SIM, we can collect data from everywhere. We have discussed that. That is what you call aggregation. Then we can do correlation. Based upon that, we can get alerts. And based upon that, we can create reports, right? So that is what SIM basically helps us to do. Now, SIM monitoring using SIM, basically we are able to monitor our organization 24/7, and if there is any particular alert being generated during that particular while, we SIM can help us to perform the analysis, log forensics, and can help us to understand that what exactly the entire case scenario is. So that's how important SIM monitoring and analysis is. So there are several things which you will be doing in a SIM solution. Your vendor, your organization, your employer will be asking you to do lots of things in terms of SIM. So if we do talk about what all things it will be asking, so there will be concepts like rule creation, right? You have to create new rules, right? There will be concepts like asset management, in under which we will be basically the one who will be managing the assets for the organization. That means integrating all those assets, making sure logs of those assets are basically coming up to our SIM. That will be the work. We do have lots of things to be done up over there. We do have threat intel integrations, right? Once we do create the rules, we do have threat intel platforms using which we can integrate several things up over there. We can basically fine tune the system, right? Because based upon sim alerts only, we will be basically analyzing our entire SOC, right? And when we are analyzing our entire SOC based upon sim, we will be receiving lots of different types of alerts. Some of these alerts can be false positive and some of these alerts can be true positives, right? So the one which will be basically false positive is also basically needs to be eliminated. But what I can do overall in order to basically make sure that I do not receive any false positive, and even if I do, I receive very less, right? That's what we talk about fine tuning. So fine tuning will be the part where we will be having entire of our assets, entire of our talks, entire of our assets we will be having up out there. And based upon those assets and alerts which we are generating, what is the root cause of those particular false positive alerts? We will be finding that and we'll be fine tuning those particular things up out there, right? And apart from it, guys, monitoring part, as I already mentioned, more and more aggregation. That means devices we will be adding so that we can monitor it at overall. Analysis will be the part where we will be looking into the alerts, right? That which particular source IP is basically part of it, which source port is part of it, which destination IP is part of it, which destination port is part of it. So all these things we will be looking into, right? So that's what basically will be the part of analysis. Like what was the payload? How many of you guys do understand the term payload up over here? Some sort of data up over there, right? So that some sort of data which every event does have is what we do call as a payload. Let's say your event will be showing you SSH login failure in your SIM, right? SSH service login failure. But what happened? You will be going into that event and then you will be looking into the payload that okay, Sam was the user due to which Sam was the user who basically failed his SSH login attempt, right? So this is what we do call as payloads, guys, right? So we will be looking into the payloads, we'll be talking about lots of things. So over here, overall work of SIM, right? Overall work of SIM, making yourself an expert in a tool from the starting point where you can basically understand the tool, you can use the tool, you can create reports out of these tools, you can basically create rules, you can fine tune rules, you can do the analysis of alerts, you can basically extract out the data, you can parse the data. If there is something which is not being working in the sim, find out the reason and fixing that part. That is what comes under the sim monitoring and analysis, right? So this is something which you will be doing in one of the part of SOC. So there are, we do have sim admins, right? Like we do have IBMQradar admins, administrators, we do have Splunk admins. So these admins basically do this particular task. So admin will be the one who will be moreover expert in a one particular type of sim solution, right? So it's not necessary to be expert in one type of SIM solution. It is good to be said that people should have knowledge about multiple SIM solutions, because let's say you are working in X organization which is using a SIM solution, but once you go through Y organization, they might be using B SIM solution. So you should be mastering the one SIM solution and you should have been the knowledge of all of them, right? Master the one and be the jack of all the trades. That's what will be a win-win situation for us in terms of SIM, right? I did receive a question couple of minutes back. Can you explain short about Azure Sentinel? So Azure Sentinel, it's one of the product of Microsoft, which is again nothing but a SIM solution, right? So AZ Sentinel we do call it. So it's again one of the cloud native SIM solution which Microsoft is providing in order to basically do the work of our organizations monitoring. No, you do not basically have to define payload, right? So payload will be data which will be coming with each of your log. So what happened exactly? So whatsoever data is inside log, that's what we do call as a payload, right? So we do not define anything to that payload. Yeah, so meanwhile it will happen. Let's continue upon our part. So in QRadar, basically, as I mentioned, offenses are alerts, right? So now in a while, I will be taking you all to the one of the parts where you will be understanding that what exactly alerts I was talking about, what exactly payload I was talking about. So these things we are going to see right now in next couple of minutes, right? So I'll be taking you up over there. What? It's a domain of SOC where you will be having all the tasks in order to basically do those VAPTs, VA scans, in order to find all those particular vulnerabilities. You have to make sure that your system or your entire network does not have any type of vulnerabilities. It's being up to date, and you have to make sure that your systems are being robust and are holding up good against the known threats, right? So people generally do call it like endpoint analysis as well, like only if they have to talk about endpoint. So they do talk about system hardening up over there. People generally, I was saying that guys, people generally do call it as endpoint analysis as well, right? So where if they are only or talking about endpoints, they do vulnerability management in endpoints via system hardening, by doing the audits of endpoints. So all the things, if I do talk about in this particular domain of vulnerability management, it will be coming as patch management. So patches are what? These are the fixes, right? We can say patches are the fixes of the systems, of the flaws, of the bugs, of the vulnerabilities which will be applied, right? So we do our patch management where we manage it, we will be managing all the part patches of the systems, servers, networks, component, services. So that is one concept which will be coming under this vulnerability management group. Another concept would be hardening, right? System hardening where you do have certain benchmarks and you will be making sure that you have hardened your system in a way that it's not being basically very easy for any particular internal user or any particular malicious file to exploit your systems, right? It's not impossible not to do so, but it, it's not that much easy, right? And everything is being logged and monitored inside your system, right? We do have audits of systems, endpoints and networks. We can go for vulnerability scanning tools, like we can use NISAs. So all the vulnerability scannings of web application, network, if you do talk about internal network, if you do talk about external network, web applications, you do have mobile devices, you do have certain different applications. So all the types of vulnerability scans and their management will be the part under vulnerability management. And directly these type of reports will be shared to two different types of team. The one will be threat hunting team and the another one will be penetration testing team, right? If there is a different team which is working as a penetration testing team apart from vulnerability management or vulnerability scanning team, right? So they will be doing the pen testing and they will be making sure that how liable this particular vulnerability is to organization, and accordingly risk will be assessed and those vulnerabilities will be patched, right? So that's what we do call as guys as a vulnerability management. Now,
Okay.
guys, this is a quick overview of IBMQradar, right? Remember, I was talking about payloads. So when we do have some monitoring, right? These type of alert information we do keep receiving. Now, I want to know what is going on inside this, let's say, health metrics logs, right? So what I can do is I can just open this particular log. I can scroll down, and this entire text is what you do see as a payload information, right? So that's what payload is. Every event will be having a payload. So we will be, as a part of some monitoring and analysis, you will be looking into the payloads. You will be identifying if there is any suspicious activity going on or not, right? And secondly, these were the offenses which we are talking about. So that is what we do call as offense. So you are receiving all the logs up over here, right? Out of these logs, if any anomaly is being detected as per your rules, it lands into the offense. And offense is something which we do call as. And next, yeah, let me show you this part also. You were talking about vulnerability management, right? So let me show you that how you can add an application, right? So you can see up here we do have multiple apps being added. So there will be certain applications, let's say for Tenable, for College Guard, which you can add to existing SIM solution. And can you see this VA scanners? So this is where the built-in VA scanners would be also there, right? So that is guys about vulnerability management as well. Now the third one, the third domain of SOC, where an SME would be joining, where the organization or the SOC has to provide the information related to malwares, threats in the organization. So we do call it malware analysis and reverse engineering domain. So now what will happen under this domain? All the malicious activities, there will be malware experts, all the malicious activity they will be tracing back, they will be understanding how this malware is working, how this malware is propagating itself, how this malware is affecting the security of the system, which particular parts of system it is infecting, how what type of malware it is. So everything related to the malware, you will be doing it up over there, right? So that's what malware analysis and reverse engineering domain is. So it will be basically something where a particular person will be doing static analysis, dynamic analysis regarding the malware over there, right? So that's what we do have in malware analysis and reverse engineering. So that was your malware analysis where you did find out the info. In static analysis, what type of info you will be finding out? Using third party tools and services, you will be collecting more information about that malware without executing that particular malware, without running that malware. Using third party tools, what all information you can find out, that's what you will be doing with static analysis. But in dynamic analysis, what you're going to do over here, you will be having an isolated environment, right? Isolated environment would be there. Now, guys, you do not want to basically infect your system. So that's why you do have an isolated environment. So it will be there in order to basically run, execute the malware and understand the malware's runtime behavior. That how malware in runtime is basically impacting the malware analysis. Let's do talk about a bit more about reverse engineering. Now, let's say you have tried and created that what is malware, what type of malware it was, you run it, you understood the behavior of that malware, the runtime analysis also being done, but still you are not able to get entire things, still you are not able to find out how malware is impacting the system, what calls it is making to system. So this is the part where reverse engineering comes into the picture, where you will be doing what, you will be reversing the particular malware. So it's not always to find out what is how malware is working. Let's say if there is a ransomware, so reversing is the way through which we can basically reverse the malware and we can try to find out the ransomware, the key which ransomware has used in order to encrypt our file, right? so that we can decrypt our data successfully. So reversing will be always the part where you are doing the engineering, but in a reverse way. Engineer make things, right? So you are opening those things back again so that you can find out each and every component of that malware, which will be helping you to understand the malware's behavior and will be helping you to protect that system back again. So that is your reverse engineering. I got a question about malware analysis back again. So this will be the part where you will be finding, you will be a malware expert where you will be finding more information about malwares, that how it is running, what type of files it is calling, what type of data it is calling, right? What registry changes it is making, what URL it is trying to download. So those type of things. Apart from it, you will be collecting more third party information for, you can say so, for a particular malware, that their hash, their IPs, their values, right? Apart from it, you will be able to talk about what all malware is all about, if there are any strings inside that malware, right? Signatures of that malware. So that's what your static analysis would be. Yes, there are lots of tools for malware analysis. If I do talk about, like the one which is in Windows, which I prefer, is, it's not completely a malware analysis tool but helps a lot. That is your sys internals suite, right? Apart from it, you do have sandbox like Cuckoo sandbox is there. Apart from it, you do have Joyce sandbox. So lots of tools are there which can basically help you. Let's say in static analysis, you do have PE Studio, right? So lots of things are there in terms of malware analysis over there. Over there. So what you did was you gave it to the forensics guy. Forensics guy will be trying its best to do the static analysis. So forensic people are having little bit knowledge about malwares as well if they are into malware forensics. So what they can do is they can do the static analysis, try to understand what it is. If they are not able to understand it, then you do call for malware analysis team. You give that particular malware to them and you ask them to basically give you the report that what sort of malware it is, what malicious activity is doing. So malware analysis will be very much important for, not for known malwares, for the malwares which are unknown, for the custom malwares which attackers do use in order to craft the attack, right? It is something which is being given that you, if you have to basically, let's say, go through a place, right? If you have to go from place A to place B, these type of checkpoints you have to basically make sure that you follow, right? That's what a compliance can be. If not, it's not compliance, right? So something, recommendation, guidelines, like, and we can say policies for governance, these type of things, something we can say that is known as compliance, right? So every organizations these days are following compliances. If I do talk about few of the famous compliances, we do have PCI DSS, right? We do have GDPR, SOCs, HIPAA, GLBA, right? Apart from it, you do have lots of them, ISOs. ISO, moreover, I would say standards. You do have SOC 2. Yeah, so SOC 2 is basically something which you can say will be defining the criteria based upon your major, I would say, trust service type of principles, right? You do have your security principles, privacy principles, confidentiality principles, availability principles, and process integrity principles. So this is what we do call as SOC 2. So if I do talk about SOC 2 compliance, right? So it will be something which will be, like, you can say it's an auditing procedure, will be ensuring that your service provider, right, from which you are taking the service, is securely managing your data and is protecting your interest or not, right? So that is what we do call as SOC 2 compliance, right? Something similar to that, we do have PCI DSS. This is for credit card industry, right? Or I would say payment card industry, all of your prepaid cards, and I would say debit cards, any type of card, how that card information should be stored, processed, should be shared. Everything will be decided under PCI DSS, right? Mostly you guys will be using your wallets, right? E-wallets. So you might be seeing that whenever your account number or any particular number is being written, it's been masked, right? So that masking is also the reason of PCI DSS itself. Recordings will be shared to the YouTube channel, I would say. And GDPR again, guys, for data protection, right? One of the European Union compliance, which is for data protection. So whatsoever user is visiting, whatsoever not visiting, I would say whatsoever user, if you want to use any of the user's data, you need to take the user's permission or consent first, right? If you do not do so, that means you're not taking the complete care of the privacy of that particular user, and it might impact your business, right? So that's what GDPR is. What is SOX, guys? Any idea? SOX, SOX. Absolutely, it's related to finance, right? So SOX, that is Sarbanes-Oxley Act, basically refers to the auditing of a public company, right? So you can say the financial data of the public company, all the public sector companies, where they are investing the money, what sort of work they are doing, whether what sort of financial reports they do have, right? So all these things basically will be there for SOX, right? For all the public sector units, right? So it will be basically talking about all of your financial reports to include in your internal controls reports, and companies' financial data should be adequate and accurate with the help of controls which will be there in order to safeguard the financial data of the organization. So that is what we do call as SOX. Next is HIPAA again, healthcare industry. So how your healthcare data would be shared, right? Let's say you go through hospital, you run some scans, right? So that's your health data. So how these health data will be stored, processed, and shared, that is being governed by HIPAA, right? Next is again GLBA. Any idea upon GLBA, anyone? Gram Leach Bilili Act? Absolutely. So this is again for financial industry. Specifically, this is for financial institution. So all the financial institution, you do talk about banks, insurance companies, those loan companies, how they will be storing your private information, how they will be sharing your private information. That will be again related to GLBA. And ISO is having some set of standards, which is again is proving about itself, right? So it does have basically lots of standards where it will be basically talking about multiple various things inside its popular standards. Clear? So these are, guys, couple of things up over here for compliance and auditing fields as well, right? So a person who will be the part of compliance and audit, he will be asked in a SOC. I'm talking about, if you are being offered as a role of compliance and audit, what you will be doing is you will be performing quality assurance that your cybersecurity checks, your investigations are having, if any abnormalities according to the compliance. You will be providing the guidance to your internal stakeholders regarding the cybersecurity compliance, right? You will be the part of the security team where your role would be to make sure that the compliances of the organizations are being improved and are being maintained throughout the particular given standard level, right? So that is what you will be doing in terms of compliance and a auditor field. So these were guys few of the domains of SOC which we have discussed, right? We have discussed one, two, three, and four, right? And rest four, I have created certain slides, so we will be discussing them in detail. So let's proceed with that part as well. Before moving to that slide, perfect. So incident we already understood. Response. Now let's understand response, right? So incident is basically anything which is a stoppage, anything which is basically I can say causing the harm to my security, affecting the security of my organization is what I call as an incident to the organization, right? Just like a malware outbreak, right? Malware infection, where a virus is basically being spreaded, or a worm or a ransomware is being spreaded to the system, or I can say DDoS attack is again a type of incident. We can say brute force attack is again a type of incident. So all these things are what we do call as an incidents, right? So in incident response, guys, in incident response, that is one of the major domain under SOC, right? One of the major domains under SOC. So I would say every SOC, right? Every SOC is 90% of the time is doing what is we do call as incident response, right? 90% of the time incident response is taking place. Some or the other activity will be falling under these given six steps, right? These given six steps, some or the other activity will be falling under, right? So with effective incident response functions, we can minimize the negative impacts on the business. So that is something which is to be very true. So incident response, we will be discussing it in detail. All these six steps of incident response, we'll be discussing it in detail. But incident response, it will be guys your entire cycle from where you have detected the incident to the part where you have recovered from the incident. Can you see? Where you have prepared yourself to go for any incident. If it will come, you will reply. From that stage to the part bringing your business back from that incident, recovering back. Yes, exactly, guys. It's a reactive approach, but some of the part of incident response, like preparation, this is something which can be a proactive or a continuous approach, right? But from detection to the part of recovery, we do have it as a reactive approach majorly. So let's understand preparation. So preparation will be the phase where we will be preparing ourselves for incident response. So all the people who will be part of incident response, all the process, all the technology, everything will be part of incident response up over there, right? So preparation, then we do have under preparation, like we will be creating the process, who will be contacting to whom, under what sort of incident. You will be selecting which all people you will be needing in your team for incident response, which all tool you will be using for incident response, and whether the system which you do have already in place are having that much good enough data in order to basically detect and identify the incident or not, right? A small example I will be giving you guys up over here, like creating a central registration system, creating a central registration system up over there. So under central registration system, what you will be doing, instead of going through all the different systems, right? You will be having a central log collection mechanisms which can manage large file. You will be saving lots of time up over there. So that is part of preparation. So that is basically the part of preparation. Secondly, guys, under preparation, a simplest example I can give you, that all of your devices clocks are being synchronized. Do you guys know which protocol do we use to synchronize all of our devices clocks? Let's say your IDS is saying the attack happened in morning, but your firewall says that no, attack happened in evening. So that will be a wrong thing. So under preparation, we can include time synchronization. Enabling NTP, network time protocol, on all the devices is important while we are collecting logs from different devices, right? You could have user account management where you can manage which account belongs to which type of user, so that you can easily monitor those user activities, and you can also monitor which user is having what sort of access, right? Who is having access to what. User account management. You can have management of system and service accounts, because you guys know SolarWinds attack happened, right? Recently SolarWinds attack was happened, I would say back a year or so. Supply chain compromise, isn't it? So under that SolarWinds attack, there was a compromise of a build server. Now it was not a user who basically was compromised. A build server was being compromised. Now that is a service account, right? So management of the system and service accounts are equally important with user account management. So you can also include that part under preparation. Even your asset management, which asset basically belongs to whom apart from it, whether their operating system, whether their patch versions, whether their known vulnerabilities, all these particular reports will be helping you in order to basically prepare yourself for incidents, right? And of course, secure communication in case of a vast incident, impactful incident. Let's say if your lines are basically being compromised, so you should be having a independent way of communication to your concerning persons, right? That is something up over there. All the people who will be knowing the legal transactions as well, right? The person who will be the, you can say, knowledgeable inside the judicial process, or in situation which should be determined what incident, what to do before the incident occurs. So that sort of legal transactional had should be there, because let's say if a customer, if an incident is there where customer data has been exposed, right? So at that time we will be needing these particular persons in order to basically represent us. So that all things basically, like small things you can include as the part of. Next one is, guys, detection. So detection will be the part where we will be doing what, we will be identifying, right? We will be identifying the actual incident, right? So this will be the part where you will be detecting the incidents. Clear? In order to find out what was the exact incident, and then you will be basically doing the part. Some people in some parts you might see detection and analysis are one of the same things, right? So let's do talk about that only. Preparation, then we do have detection and analysis. So on the detection and analysis, what we are doing, we are detecting the incident. So over here, the L1 analyst will be doing what? Will be receiving the alerts, right? L1 analyst receives the alerts, and from there it determines whether it's a incident or whether it's a event, right? That's what the part of detection is, guys. Clear? Once it's been detected, right? All, like over here he will be getting all the alerts, and under detection and analysis, which is the same part, analysis will be the part where he will be doing the first interrogation. He will be checking that, okay, this incident involves this IP, so let me check it on virus total, let me check it on telos intelligence. These type of things he will be doing the under the analysis in order to verify whether it's a false positive or not. As soon as he detects that yes, it's not a false positive, it's an actual incident, he will be isolating the system under containment. That which system is part of compromise. Let's say Bharat's system is part of compromise. So isolate the Bharat systems from the entire network, so that from Bharat system another system might not get affected. So that's what containment is, right? I will be giving some more example for all of these as well. And once it's been contained, guys, between containment and eradication is something false. That's what we do call as digital forensics. So that's what we do call as digital forensics. So what digital forensics will be doing is it will be helping us in order to find out who was actually the preparator. That means the one who basically attacked us. What was the root cause? How did they do attack? All the root cause analysis will be done up over there, so that those key points, those major key points that are pointing towards the compromise, that could be eradicated, right? So once you have contained it, that means you have stopped it from spreading inside your network. You will be taking on that system, you will be analyzing that system, that what were the major parts under the forensics, and then you will be eradicating those things from your system. That eradicating means removing. So once you have eradicated it, right, you will proceed towards the recovery. Before that, you will be doing something which we do call as VA scans, and I would say IOC scans, and all these particular security scans you will be performing to make sure that none of your system is still the part of compromise, right? So that is what we do call as eradication. Sounds good? And once done the eradication, bringing back our business to the normal state, that's what we do have as recovery, right? So recovery will be the part where we can bring back our business to the normal state, right? We can bring back our business to the normal state. So in case if your data restoration needs to be happen from your backups, you will be restoring your data, and you will be verifying that your backup from which you are restoring your data, backup does not have anything, any point which is pointing towards the incident, right? So again, certain scans will be done. So that is, guys, the entire step of incident response. So SOC team and IR team, if organization does have budget, are one of the same persons, right? SOC and IR are one of the same person if there is budget, but big organization, they do have different analyst. SOC analyst L1 is different, L2 is different, and you do have IR team specialists who are different. So root cause of analysis, Ms. Priyanka, if we do talk about ransomware, that's a very good question and interesting also. So I got a question that what will be the root cause of analysis under a ransomware? Now ransomware can appear for multiple parts, right? So how you will be detecting it? Let's say you detect, you were monitoring the memory, the system and the files of a system. You find out that there was one file which was trying to communicate with every different file inside your system. So you can definitely pick up that file, that is something which will be there, which we can say that it's a ransomware file. So you need to understand the behavior of that particular malware, and accordingly you can do the root cause analysis. So root cause analysis, in case if ransomware has affected your system, what will be a root cause analysis? Will create the images, right? Will create the images of your RAM, will create the images of your ROM, will collect network traffic, right? All these things basically will be collecting. Of course, logs will be encrypted, we won't be able to get access to it. So the data which much access which we can try to get, that we will be getting, we'll try to understand what type of ransomware it is, and then we will be finding out the key points that okay, what exactly has happened, we will try to do so. SIM basically helps you to a certain level of incident response, I would say, right? It will be helping you to do a certain level of incident response, which I will say that it can be part of detection and analysis, right? Of course, you can sometimes do containment, but eradication and all, you will be going through that system itself. So, yes, of course, there can be more process like documentation, lessons learned. So that is basically something which you will be learning. later down the line, in case if you will be joining some sort of training of incident response, or I would say SOC, where you will be learning. Of course, there is a next step, that is guys, which we do call as lessons learned, right? So some books might be showing you with the name of documentation and all. So this will be the part where you will be creating your documents, reports you will be creating, that what exactly was the incident, how you responded it. Secondly, you will be basically in lessons learned will be collecting feedbacks from all the teams which were involved in incident response, so that you can reply upon those particular feedbacks that okay, this is what it has happened. So let's do basically do this particular thing, that was the feedback. So let's do improve this thing in order to basically make sure that our incident response is much smoother. So I have seen organizations like if you do talk about NIST as standard, they've included all three of them into one step: containment, eradication, and recovery. Though these are not the same things, right? They've included them into one step. But for what I have noticed from the organization, they do have these two different things. Containment will be moreover scoping your incident, isolating your incident. So under containment, first of all, let's say what you will be doing is you will be characterizing your event, that what type of event it is. It's a malware, data leak, DDoS, what type of event it is. Then you will be taking the actions, that what action you will be taking in order to intercept the, find out attacker's method quickly, that okay, it was basically using having a CNC connection, so if I turn off the internet it will be gone, right? So you will be doing that. Then you will be collecting data in terms of like memories and all, volatile memory you will be collecting all the open files, running processes, systems, network traffic, logs, everything you will be collecting under containment, I'm saying. And then you will be doing the isolation. So once you do have the data, you'll make sure that that device which is compromised, no type of connection in and out of that device is being allowed, neither in local network, neither in internet, that is global network, right? So that's what isolation is. So once you have done this, eradication will be the part where you will be doing the forensics. Over here you have collected the data. Now come up over here. From that collected data you will be identifying the root cause. You will be determining how much extent of that root causes, right? You will be doing vulnerability scans through which you will be removing that root cause, and then you will be improving your defenses so that that type of deficiencies which were there from which system got compromised are not there anymore. So that is your eradication. Clear? Then guys, the next one is what we do call as recovery. So recovery, as I already mentioned, if I do give the example of recovery, you will be verifying that all of your systems are back up and in operations, right? Then you will be restoring your systems in case if restoration is needed. Then under recovery, you will be doing monitoring, where you will be monitoring your events or systems, that if in case incident is being reoccurred or not, recurring events you will be looking into. And then I already mentioned lessons learned will be part of writing a follow-up report, that everything was fine or not, how intervention plan worked or not, and then basically if any updates are there or not. Then you will be creating run books and playbooks which you can use in later down the line as a reference in future to respond to similar type of incident threats. So that is what we do call as incident response. Intelligence threat, we understood that these are the attackers, or you can say anyone who does have potential to damage, right? Intelligence will be the part, guys, where you will be collecting data in such a way that you can take the actions against that particular data, right? So if I am collecting threat intelligence, if I am collecting threat intelligence, that means against my threats. Let's say my threat is T. Against T, I am collecting that much type of information against which I can perform actions against T. I can find T, I can remove T, I can make sure that T is being blocked in my environment, all these things. So that's what we do call as a threat intelligence. Clear? So guys, threat intelligence basically is collected data which is being collected, you can understand in a layman's language, which is being processed and analyzed to understand attackers motive, attackers targets, attackers behavior, right? So that is what we do call as a threat intelligence. So threat intelligence, again we can divide it into multiple types. So in SOC there is one domain, that is threat intelligence, on which more of the SOCs functions will be depending upon, right? So if I do talk about threat intelligence, you can consider it as your food for your SIM solution. It's a food to your SIM solution which you will be feeding more and more to your SIM so that they can detect various different changes, behaviors, and they can fight against those threat actors, right? So it will be helping us to uh, detect more faster. It will be helping us to be more informed and take those particular security decisions against the change in the threats and their behaviors. Buying threat intelligence, collecting threat intelligence, you will get to know that attacker profiles A, D, M, G. These attacker profiles can attack me, attack my organization. How you are collected it? Based upon intelligence against your organization. Let's say your organization is part of Asia and it's related to finance sector. We can easily look against the threats and the adversaries who are targeting these particular organization in this particular area, right? So threat intelligence will be the part where we will be collecting the information. So little bit threat intel collected, now you got to know who is going to attack you, but how they are going to do it, still an unknown part. Then we buy in more intelligence, right? So I will be doing what, I will be creating these attacker profilings, right? I'll be collecting their behaviors, I will be collecting their signatures, I will be collecting their evidence based knowledge, everything I will be collecting for these attackers to understand that how they are going to attack me. And then I will be feeding this data in a proactive approach to my SIM solution so that in case if it detects anything out of behavior, signatures, or evidences, it will be pointing or alerting that this is basically what we do call as in. So this particular pyramid of pain basically suggests the behavior of attackers, right? So now you do understand that for an attacker, it will be very easy to change a particular file and file's hash value, right? For an attacker, it will be very easy again to change the IP address from which they are spreading the malware. To change the domain names, again it will be simple. To change how they do attack within the system. That means earlier they were using Windows exploits, now they are using Linux exploit, can be bit annoying, right? To change the tools, like earlier they were using Hydra. Now what if for password cracking, now what if we do say that they have to use Mimikatz? Again will be challenging, right? And to change the behavior, it will be one of the toughest things. So that's what pyramid of pain says, that you have to basically focus on the behavior. It will be very tough to collect, but it will be very tough for attacker to change as well. What if guys, if I do say you that from tomorrow you have to follow a different routine, you have to go through a different office, and you have to basically do a different work altogether, right? You have to live in a different city, different country with different people, all these things. It will be very hard to accept at once, right? So attackers are also people like us only, right? Creature, creature of habits. So they do have they do are creature of habit. So they will be having the same sort of activity where they won't be easily able to change the behaviors. So pyramid of pain says that you can collect the TTPs. It will be tough to collect, but it will be tough for attackers to change, right? And this will be not as much as more information as you will be getting. So threat intelligence domain is also a very good domain. In this particular threat intelligence, if you are working in a SOC, in a threat intel, you will be able to get lots of things where you have to basically monitor the threat intel feeds. You are responsible for collecting threat intel for the latest threats for the organization, using commercial threat feeds, using open source intelligence gathering, right? You will be basically having lots of data and integrations to be made to your SIM solution so that it can detect the threats before they compromise the organization, right? So if you do talk about commercial ones, there is Threat Connect, TC Complete, right? If you do talk about open source, the one answer Mr. Jabi shared, that's very good. Alien Vault OTX you can use, right? You do have then MISP MISP, you do have Maltego as a tool. So lots of basically things are there if you do talk about the open source. But commercial threat feeds depends on the vendor which your organization is choosing. Mandiant is there. You do have another particular vendors like IBM is there, right? You do have IBM Exports Exchange, Telos Intelligence. Lots of websites are there, or I would say platforms are there from which you can buy in the threat intel. Next is guys the domain of digital forensics, right? So digital forensics, as the name suggests, it is basically finding the root cause of the breach, right? You can simply understand that forensics is all about finding the root cause of the breach. So digital forensics, is it part of IR? Absolutely 100% digital forensics falls under the part of IR, but it itself is a very vast domain and a field where if you are being hired based upon your skills into forensics, you will be given task of network forensics where you have to do the traffic analysis, mostly network traffic analysis, where you will be looking into various several things regarding the traffic. You will be finding the anomalies if there are any. So that is your network forensics. Database forensics will be again the part. You will be checking whether if someone has having an access to database or not, any unauthorized access to database or not, or anything from the database is being stolen or not. Then computer forensics will be the part where you will be including two things: memory based forensics and disk based forensics. So memory based forensics where you will be taking the memory or the RAM dump of the system, right? Like which will be having the volatile memory, just like your clipboard history, your chat history, your browser history, all these things it will be collecting under memory. And disk based will be the part where you will be capturing the entire disk in order to find out if attacker has stored any particular file which is malicious or not, right? Then guys, we do have mobile device forensics. Again, this will be the part where you will be taking up your mobile device and you will be analyzing from that particular mobile device that what things are there. So again, RAM and ROM will be coming to the part. So mobile devices generally are not being used that much under SOC. You do have solutions like MDM solutions which generally do take place for mobile devices. So digital forensics, as I suggest, it is basically a step-by-step approach of finding out the root cause of breach, and that's why it's also known as root cause analysis. These are guys, if you do understand all these domains, now you will be able to understand that which career path in SOC you have to choose, right? One person cannot do everything. We can understand that. So out of these particular domains, you can pick up one, but you should be having knowledge of all. So the reason I have created these particular slides over here to give you knowledge of all, at least a sounding knowledge of all. And out of these particular things, you can choose one particular domain or two particular domains and you can do your expertise in them, and accordingly you can go for those particular specific job roles, right? So under this particular domains, the last domain which we'll be talking about is threat hunting. Threat we did already discussed, anything which can impact the security of the system, right? Can cause the damage, potential to damage. Hunting, what we generally were earlier having to hunt, like we go to a certain place like a forest and all, and then they do hunt for something, right? So hunt is basically looking after. So you can say that threat hunting It's a in-depth search, or you can say searching iteratively through your networks to detect IOCs, indicators of compromise, which points towards the attacker's presence inside the system, right? So to look around the IOCs, to look around the behaviors of the attacker, that's what basically threat hunting is. So you might be thinking that that easily can be done via vulnerability scanning. So no. So these type of IOCs and TTPs against the attackers are generally evading our existing security system, right? So that is what we do call as threat hunting, right? We will be looking after lots of threats, insider threats. We do have known adversaries as a part of threat. So insider threats, let's say, where cyber hunters can detect things like threats which are being posed by insiders, like an internal employee, or maybe any other outsider threat can be basically there, where an outsider or a criminal organization is trying to hack, right? Now, known attackers, right? Known threats. If there is a known threat, so a known attacker is basically the one who is listed in our threat intelligence services. So for this known threat, we will be having IOCs that this is the MD5 sum, this is the files which it does creates in these particular location. All these things, all these behaviors will be passed on to TI team, and we can. So that is guys what we do have as a part of threat hunting, right? You will be taking upon the adversaries and you will be looking upon those particular adversaries within your system which are evading your existing securities. That's what you will be calling as threat hunting. So let's do talk about it guys. Learning part, what we had to learn, we have learned so far up over here. Now these last 30-35 minutes I am core giving to market of SOC, things in SOC, what you will be real time doing. So I already have told you about each and every domain and the specialization and what you will be doing in SOC, right? So we already discussed upon that. So let's do talk about market trends and demands. So what do you think guys? Where is the most market demand in SOC? Which particular part of world? So it's not just one location guys where you will be seeing the market trends being going on, or we can say they are basically requesting people up over there to do the work. Lots of things are basically going on everywhere in the world. Basically people are demanding SOC teammates, right? If you just google it around SOC jobs, you will be seeing couple of links over there which will be 100% definitely mentioning that 5,000 jobs opening, 7,000 job openings, these type of job openings are there. Now what these particular jobs basically do say, so there are three things in SOC fundamentals which I have covered: process, right? Preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery. We have discussed that, right? We do have another one, that is people, vendor specific training. Remember I mentioned sim monitoring and analysis, on the job experience depending on one of your skills which you're choosing, formal and internal training. So this is IT which every SOC will be giving it to you. One thing you guys need to make sure that no two SOC can be similar, right? No two SOC can be similar up over there. If there is a SOC, you do have your in your A organization, that SOC cannot be similar to the SOC in the B organization. That's why you might be seeing that every SOC you will be joining, initial days you will be giving internal trainings. That's the reason, to make sure that you understand that how system and processes are going on over here in this current SOC, right? Governments are also demanding the organizations to keep themselves secure. So these days SOC is in everywhere, right? If I do talk about hospitals, SOC is there, right? If I do talk about retails, SOC is there. If I do talk about manufacturing, SOC is there. Financial, SOC is there. You do see even government bodies, there is SOC, right? These days, even SMEs, small medium enterprises, are also going beyond the SOC. They do have basically the capability to go beyond the SOC, right? So that is something which is very important and very useful as well, right? What other trends, guys, you are noticing in terms of SOC? Anyone, any idea? Like what demands are going on in SOC? You might be seeing that organizations are basically going beyond the people who does have the skills. They are not looking for your certificates, they are not looking for the things. They are basically asking you to do the task. If we do have the potential to do that job, they will be directly hiring the people about there, right? SOC as a service. As I mentioned, SMEs basically are also these days going beyond the SOC. Earlier, SOC was for the only big organizations, right? SOC was only for the big organization. And as you guys already know that cyber security is basically one of the largest industry economies over the world. So the growth of, I would say, role in a SOC has been increased at a tremendous level. You see these graphs, right? So these graphs are basically from last 4 years, how the jobs in SOC have frequently jumped. So by 2024, it's being said that the market of SOC is being expected to reach near about 2 billion. So it will be a $2 billion industry. Only SOC I'm talking about, not entire cyber security, right? So SOC's initial role was only bound to do what? Cyber defense, isn't it? Then increasing threats, complex nature of these particular cyber security threats. Now we do need multi-purpose specialists, right? So to perform their duty, the Security Operations Center (SOC) of today, they don't just handle real-time threat monitoring and incident management, right? They don't just basically handle these things. They are also responsible for infrastructure evaluations, their employees training, the process development, digital strategy, reputation management. These things are basically these days being needed by each and every type of SOC, right? So these things were there, endpoint threat intels, net flows and all. These are part of technology which we have already discussed today itself, right? But in terms of market trends, there is always, guys, a requirement for a person who can basically do multiple things, right? So the challenges which modern SOC are facing, alert fatigues are there, poor quality of data are there, right? A team person, a member who does not have the proper practical analysis, that is something which is there. Lack of visibility is there, budget constraints are there. But still, with this particular trends, if I do talk about the trends in SOC which I have seen so far, incident response, threat intelligence, cloud managed security, right? Threat hunting. Just one sec. Yeah. So what you can do is you can choose your vendor, that what your vendor is, right? What exactly you have to do in SOC, right? You can choose your vendor, that who is going to be your vendor, what type of work they are going to do. So these things you can look into. So let's say if you do choose Google Cloud Platform, so there are certification path for them. You choose AWS, certification path is there. Azure, certification path is there. Now if you are saying that I want to look into vendor neutral, so there are certain things, basics of SOC like cloud security is there. You do have cloud plus. It is one of the certificates from CompTIA, which is a vendor neutral certificate. So anyone who wants to begin with cloud, they can basically start on this one, Cloud Plus, right? Then basically there is CCSE, which is latestly being introduced by Yeah, so if you choose Microsoft Azure, for example, you can start with 104, Azure 900, that is fundamentals, then 104, then 500. That's if you want to go in SOC. There is SC 200. So lots of certificates are there, right? So you need to just read about what exactly you want. If you want to create a career path, you guys can go through InfosecTrain's website. We do already have given the career path for different certificates. We do have career path for AWS. We do have a career path for Azure. We do have a career path for GCP as well, right? So you can visit our website. Going upon over there, which is in SOC, right? So as I already mentioned, right? As I already mentioned, the market is not basically according to, let's say, AMEA region, UAE region, PAN region, APAC region, not like that, right? So of course different market does have different requirements, but the surge basically in trends is depending upon various things like small mid-sized organization, how they are sufficing their need of SOC, right? They are purchasing SOC as a service. This hybrid model these days, the one who cannot afford SOC based upon service type or based upon offering type, they are basically choosing SOC. That they want fully managed, they want co-managed, they want hybrid one, right? Based upon service, that what type of service they do want. Whether they see, I'm talking about SOC types, right? In terms of trends. So there is a SOC which is working on prevention service. So it will be preventing you from every cybersecurity every activity. There is a SOC service which is working upon detection type of part, right? So they will be basically only working upon the detection. They will detect it, they will give you the alert. Now you have to work upon your prevention, right? Now there is one SOC service which is basically depending upon incident response service. So under incident response service, they will be basically doing again the entire incident response from A to Z. So based upon your service type, based upon your components, that what solutions you do need, what services you do need, right? You can hire people based upon your application area, that you do need network security, endpoint security, database, application security, web security, what thing exactly you do need, right? And of course, depending on your industry, the trends are different. Depending on the region, the trends are different. But overall, SOC basically as a market has been increased a lot, right? Has been increased a lot. If I do talk about the SaaS vendor, SOC as a service vendor, Alien Vault is one of the market leader. Black Stratus is again market leader, right? If you do talk about SOC as a service from India, right? There is SumaSoft, SUMASOFT. SumaSoft is there, right? If you do talk about something from, I would say back again in states, NetMagic is there, Arctic Wolf is there, right? So lots of basically vendors are there which are in the market, and I would say every region these days are having the need of SOC equally. So that is again one thing in terms of market demands. Now, a day in a SOC, how does the analyst will be working in a SOC, right? So if I do talk about a day in the life of a SOC analyst, how it's going to be, so it will be revolving around these part: log collections, creating reports, researching and development. This is one of the important part where actual learning is there, right? Threat intelligence, knowledge base is basically trainings you will be given. You will be giving entire knowledge base for various different parts. Then your ticketing systems, closing on the tickets, receiving the tickets, investigating them, closing them. You do have your sim, you do have your aggregation correlation. So lots of things are there in a SOC if I do talk about, right? So SOC is basically one of the, I would say, like a SOC analyst is one of the integral part of SOC team who will be responsible for keeping your entire enterprise safe from these cyber crimes, right? So SOC teams are basically are being kept on their toes, right? Are being kept on their toes in order to basically perform the task, right? So there is a reason, guys, we do say that SOC never sleeps, right? Because large volume of events will be there. which needs to be investigated every single day. And every team member plays a vital role in terms of preventing, in terms of we can say securing the company's defenses, right? So duty of a SOC analyst would be, I would say, managing the alert notifications that can be done via ticketing tool, right? Preventing the attack that can be again done via SIM threat intelligence, right? Like security attack they can do. Incident response, of course, their research, their reporting part can be basically helping in incident response. Threat hunting, basically, of course, they can do it via logs which they are collecting, the knowledge base if they do have. So all these things basically can help the organization to collect lot of data, right? So duties which you will be doing, you have to work around the shift of clock. So everyone who thinks that getting a job in SOC is very easy, be ready, guys. It will be changing your lifestyle a lot, right? It will be changing your lifestyle a lot because SOC never sleeps 24/7. Let's say 1 week you will be giving a night shift where you have to wake up at night. 1 week you will be giving a day shift where you have to do the work in a day. Let's say 3 to 10, right? Then night shift is basically 10 to morning 5. Then morning shift is morning 5 to 3. So you have to work around round the clock, right? They do not keep one person in the same shift for long. It's being basically changed every month, right? Rosters are being created every week, every month. These changes will be done, right? So you should be prepared to work within the shifts around the clock, right? I'll be taking questions from chat in a while. So these things are there. Research and development will be the part where you have to educate oneself from your existing and emerging cyber attacks. So you need to basically collect more information about. Next is, guys, your last topic. Then we can basically take up the questions from chat. So it won't take more than 5 minutes, I would say. So let's do this and let's do talk about SOC services. What services a SOC would be providing, right? A SOC should be having lots of things in their bucket list to basically provide, right? So a SOC will be basically responsible for lots of things which you have seen that we already have discussed, right? Lots of things we have discussed as a part of SOC. So managed SOC services are basically the services which you will be getting either if you do have a vendor, you will be getting it from a vendor up over there, or else you will be basically having giving these particular services to one of your clients, right? So if I do talk about SOC services, right, so there will be lots of things like projecting project driven approach. So this will be like one part where you will be working upon a particular given project, right? And while you are working upon a particular given project, you need to basically work upon that particular project and you need to do the activities according to that project, like what's your scope for that particular project, what things you have been asked to do in that project, right? So those type of things. Then you do have current security posture assessment. Of course, you will be creating security metrics reporting for that so that you can analyze and find out like your customers desired security posture and where they are, right? So those type of things. Then you do have security incident and threat analysis. These type of services you have to provide. Under security incident and threat analysis will be the part where you will be doing the incident analysis, where you will be finding why incident had happened and what was the threat which has realized this incident. That will be the part of incident and threat analysis. Network and other security assessments. So this will be the part of VAPT services you have to basically do. So these type of services also SOC do provide. Gap analysis and process auditing. Your security goal was to go 20. You are on 10. So this gap analysis will be done. Again, this is something which SOC has to provide so that it can be a perfect insight that what needs to be done in order to bridge this gap, right? Reports and recommendations, again, We will be doing it via report generation. And then guys, we do have design security framework. So of course, we need to design various different types of security frameworks for our part, right? So we will be doing lots of things for our part where we will be working upon various different frameworks which can be used in order to basically provide the services. Some people do call it guys all of these services as eagle eye services. Eagle eye services 24/7 aggregation, correlation, analytics, user behavioral analytics, on demand reports, artificial intelligence and machine learning the part, and analyzing and correlating these particular threats and incident is what can be the part of an eagle eye service, right? So SOC services are there, lots of are there. So these are just few of them which I have added up over there, which we can say that is needed in terms of. So the challenges which you will be having in your SOC will be again different, right? So you will be basically facing lots of things up over there in your SOC, right? So what makes a good SOC is there are three key pillars to SOC: people, process, and technology. So if you do basically work upon those things, you will be getting your things absolutely correct up over there, right?